The lost version of Interstellar. How Christopher Nolan took over. Spielberg's sci-fi epic. Introduction to the Interstellar you never saw. Imagine a version of Interstellar that feels less like 2001, A Space Odyssey and more like Close Encounters of the Third Kind. A version where aliens actively guide humanity, where the focus is more on Earth's survival than deep space mysteries, and where Cooper isn't even the main character. Now imagine that this version was being made by Steven Spielberg, the legendary filmmaker behind Jurassic Park, E.T., and Saving Private Ryan, long before Christopher Nolan even touched the script. What if I told you that Interstellar was originally a completely different movie, with an entirely different tone, a different lead character, and a more hopeful ending? What if I told you that after years in development, the film was abandoned by Spielberg, only for Christopher Nolan to pick it up and rewrite nearly 60% of the story, turning it into something completely new? Before Interstellar became one of the most mind-bending sci-fi films of the 21st century, it started as a science-first project. The story's origins can be traced back to Kip Thorne, a renowned theoretical physicist and expert on wormholes and black holes. Thorne had a long-standing vision to create a scientifically accurate movie about space travel, using real physics concepts instead of the usual Hollywood exaggerations. His ideas caught the attention of Linda Apst, a Hollywood producer known for Contact, 1997, another film grounded in real science. Together, Thorne and Apst started shaping a film concept that would explore wormholes, relativity, and space exploration in a way never seen before. Apst then brought the idea to Steven Spielberg, who had just come off directing War of the Worlds, 2005. Spielberg was intrigued. He envisioned Interstellar as a deeply emotional story, less of a cold scientific exploration and more of a human-centered survival tale. He wanted to focus heavily on a dying Earth, portraying it almost like a second Schindler's List in terms of human struggle. To develop the screenplay, Spielberg turned to Jonathan Nolan, an emerging screenwriter best known for co-writing The Prestige and The Dark Knight with his brother Christopher. This is the untold story of the lost Spielberg version of Interstellar, and how it became one of the most mind-bending sci-fi films of all time under Nolan. Spielberg's lost version, a different Interstellar. If Spielberg had directed Interstellar, it would have been an entirely different film. Here's how his version differed from what we eventually saw under Christopher Nolan. 1. Earth-centric survival story. In Spielberg's version, the first half of the film would have focused much more on Earth's decline. Instead of a vague blight wiping out crops, the disaster was more environmental and politically charged, possibly involving climate refugees. The protagonist's journey would have revolved around helping humanity evacuate Earth, rather than just a scientific space mission. 2. More advanced aliens. One of the biggest differences, Spielberg's version featured actual aliens. The beings behind the wormhole were not vague, fifth-dimensional entities, but were supposed to be highly intelligent extraterrestrial beings, actively guiding humanity towards survival. This was closer in spirit to Close Encounters of the Third Kind, or E.T., rather than Nolan's 2001, A Space Odyssey-inspired ambiguity. 3. A different main character. Instead of the rugged, determined Cooper, Matthew McConaughey's character, Spielberg's lead was reportedly a scientist rather than a pilot. The protagonist had a more passive role, more of an observer trying to understand the mysteries of space rather than someone actively making daring decisions. 4. A less complex time travel plot. Spielberg's draft had time dilation, but it wasn't as extreme or mind-bending as Nolan's final film. The black hole sequences were there, but the idea of Cooper watching his daughter from the fifth dimension was entirely a Nolan addition. Instead, the film focused more on the idea of intergalactic human colonization. 5. A different robot design. Spielberg's film had a more traditional AI companion rather than the geometric, blocky robots Tars and Case. Nolan later redesigned the robots to be fully functional, practical effects inspired by real mechanical engineering. Spielberg's exit. How Interstellar ended up with Nolan. In 2009, Spielberg's production company DreamWorks split from Paramount, which meant that he could no longer direct the film under that studio. He had to leave the project, and Interstellar was left without a director. Jonathan Nolan, who had spent 4 years working on the script, didn't want to see it disappear. He brought it to his brother, Christopher Nolan, who had just finished The Dark Knight and was about to start Inception. At first, Christopher Nolan wasn't sure. He was fascinated by space, but had never directed anything as scientifically rigorous as what Kip Thorne envisioned. However, when he read his brother's script, he saw an opportunity to merge hard science with deep emotions, something he had done successfully in films like The Prestige. He agreed to direct, but only under one condition: he wanted to rewrite and reshape the story. How Nolan transformed Interstellar. Nolan took Spielberg's script and rewrote nearly 60% of it while keeping Kip Thorne's scientific concepts intact. 1. A more emotional father-daughter relationship. One of the biggest changes Nolan made was turning the story into a deeply personal father-daughter tale. Spielberg's version focused on the collective survival of humanity, but Nolan centered it around Cooper and Murph, making their emotional connection the heart of the story. 2. A less hopeful tone. Spielberg's version had a more optimistic ending where humanity thrived thanks to the aliens' guidance. Nolan made the story more ambiguous, raising the question of whether humans truly deserve to survive. Dr. Mann, played by Matt Damon, was also a Nolan addition, meant to show how desperation can corrupt even the best minds. 3. More realistic space sequences. Nolan eliminated traditional Hollywood-style space action in favor of realistic space travel. Inspired by 2001: A Space Odyssey, he shot the film using practical effects wherever possible, even building actual rotating spaceship sets to simulate zero gravity. 4. The fifth-dimensional Tesseract scene. Perhaps the biggest difference. Spielberg never had the inside the black hole sequence. Nolan created the Tesseract scene, where Cooper communicates with Murph through gravity, giving the film its mind-bending twist. This idea was inspired by Kip Thorne's research but was something only Nolan could bring to the screen in such a bold, abstract way. Final thoughts. 2 masters, 2 visions. Spielberg's Interstellar would have been a more hopeful, alien-driven, human survival story, while Nolan's version became a darker, more complex meditation on time, loss, and sacrifice. Both directors are known for their emotional storytelling, but Spielberg's optimism would have made the film feel more like Close Encounters, while Nolan's philosophical depth turned it into something closer to 2001: A Space Odyssey. In the end, Nolan's vision won out, and Interstellar became a massive box office hit, earning $730 million worldwide and winning an Oscar for Best Visual Effects. Even more importantly, it rekindled public interest in space travel, inspiring a new generation of scientists, astronauts, and filmmakers. Would Spielberg's version have been better? That's a question film fans still debate today. But one thing is certain: Interstellar remains one of the most ambitious sci-fi films ever made, thanks to Christopher Nolan's unique vision. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the lost version of Interstellar and how it evolved into the film we know today, make sure to hit that like button. It really helps out the channel. If you want more fascinating stories about behind-the-scenes filmmaking, lost scripts, and the evolution of iconic movies, subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. And don't forget to share this video with fellow movie lovers who'd love to know the hidden history behind some of the greatest films ever made. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.